They got quite a bit of All right, we're going to bring this meeting to order. If you would rise as Reverend Brown and bless this upcoming school year, then we'll do the pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important thing in our lives when we start a year with our children. So actually we all would just pray that God would meet the need, because all of our hearts are geared toward kids being the best they can be. And we ask God to bless all of us. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for everything you've done. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve our children and to serve this district. God, we reach out every time this year, every point in this year, every student, every staff member, every teacher, oh God, give them the courage to do the best that they can do. Most of all, God, lead us in leadership that we need to be led by now. Only you can lead them. Bless our school to be safe and prosperous in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you're seated this evening, I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence for two individuals that served our district and students for a very long period of time. The first one is Miss Joanne Patterson. She was a teacher and administrator for Hendry County Schools from 1954 through 1993. She taught as a first grade teacher and was the principal at LaBelle Elementary School. After retiring, she continued to serve as a substitute teacher. Ms. Patterson passed away on July 24th, 2024. The second individual is Ms. Dorothy Saucer. She worked with Hendry County Schools from October of 1990 through July of 2003 in finance as a property records clerk. Ms. Saucer was a very dedicated and loved employee. She passed away July 27th. Please join me in a moment of silence for these two individuals. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, we have a presentation today, I see.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Duncan are going to be given a presentation kind of outlining the school grade data from the previous school year. As some of you well know, we had an absolutely phenomenal school year academically, and there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot to celebrate, and we want to take this opportunity to share some of the very specific things that our students and teachers achieved, and take this opportunity to show our appreciation to them. We'll talk more about it as we go through, or at the end if you have questions. So without further ado, I'll let Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Duncan take it over.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, Superintendent, and the board. We are so glad to be here tonight to present for you our 23-24 school data. As we work in Hendry, we continue to strive to climb to the best academic potential of our students and give it all we've got. So we're excited to share with you the journey we've had this last year and some of our actions moving forward. We'll cover not only the grade band changes, because there were some things at the state, individual school performance, district data performance, the process we kind of utilize as a district to help ourselves continue to climb, and then be glad to take any questions at the end or throughout.
And one trend that you're going to observe today is the growth. That word is going to come up a lot. We put that in our agenda, but we're going to talk a lot about growth, and progress. Because our mantra and our motto this year is climb. Our job every year should be to take one step up the mountain. Because our kids deserve to be in the district that is at the very top in terms of performance. All right. So we want to start by talking about school grade band changes, because when you look at school year 22, you look at school year 23, you look at school year 24, there are just differences in the way that the school grades were measured. And so in 22, it didn't matter whether you were in elementary, middle, or high school, 62% of all eligible points or higher was an A, and you can see the trend line there. In the baseline year, because 23 did not have learning gains, were not part of the calculations, the state did adjust it based on the differences between high schools, middle schools, and elementaries, as you see there.
And that was because of the new assessment. They were changing assessments, and so they had to accommodate for the baseline year.
Okay. And then in 23-24,
Yeah, so for this last school year, elementary did have double points in third grade. So previously you just had a third through fifth grade one score. And this past year we had third grade counting twice. It counted in that 3 through 5 band, and it also counted individually of 100 points in its own. And so there was 800 points for elementary, and then a total of 1,200 points to calculate the entire district school grade. Still, it continues to be the A through D letter grades as we proceed forward.
and you notice there how this past school year they did differentiate the percent of points between elementary and then secondary schools. Middle and high schools have to achieve a higher threshold in order to be considered in schools at 64% of points versus 62% in elementary. In order to be a B, you have to have at least 57% of points in the secondary world. And in elementary, it's at 54%, which is the old way that all schools were graded back in 22.
And just to recognize on that point, they did not announce that change in the scores until about, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, July
And so-
24th, the day that the grades were released.
Correct.
Where it was the day that this was announced, or made official.
Surprise, we've changed the scale. Like, we knew that it could change, that was on the table, but we were really hoping that they didn't change it, and they did, so.
So we would have been higher if they had not changed.
Yes, sir, we're gonna explain that to you. Yeah.
And do you think, well, the differentiation and the secondary, it has a higher threshold to get a higher grade? Is that because they have the benefit of acceleration and the CTE credits and also to factor in graduation rates?
Do you mean why they raised it?
Yes.
So it's twofold.
From the baseline, because everything was pure proficiency last
Last year.
22, 23,
But-
and now we're here.
But now, there's another caveat to that too. For some reason, and I am unable to explain this,
See if you can-
the state wants to keep relatively the same number of A schools and B schools and C schools throughout the state from year to year to year. They don't want a lot of fluctuation. So they wait until they get all the scores in and see where the scores would wind up, and then they will adjust that baseline to keep the number relatively the same. And for the life of me, can't figure out why they would do that. You know, it'd be like me saying, to be a school board member, if you'll do these things, we will give you X amount of salary for a teacher. But you know what? Because there's more of you than what we thought, we're going to raise that bar another 10 feet and see if you can jump over that one. And then we will give you what we said we would give you. And so it is an ambiguous, moving target from year to year to year. And I don't like it, but it is what it is. And even with that, I think you're going to see some remarkable gains and growth that we had this year. So it's twofold. It's not just of the academic piece. It's another way that they have of adjusting and keeping the state somewhat equal in numbers. And for a lot of me, I don't know why.
And it's in the law, if you want to look at it, it's called the escalator clause, and it's literally what you said, like, you can only have so many schools in A, B, you know, so they moved the target so
For the
that.
life of me, I can't understand why, I believe the purpose of grades, district grades, and school grades is for the layperson who's not in education to have an idea of how the particular district and school's performing, yet what we put before our kids, they can earn an A through an F on their daily assignments and their tests, but there's no districts. They didn't give any district in the state below a C, and that's my law.
Concerning.
It is. I don't think it's like an actual, well, I would say a disingenuous representation.
So we can expect an escalator clause next July.
Every year.
Escalator clause
Every year.
says that if within each one of the bands, elementary, middle, high, if you have 75% or more of eligible schools in that band that are A and Bs, they must adjust it the following year.
Not next year, but the year after.
Because you can't hit that, 75 is that magic threshold. You can't have more than 75% of the schools in any particular band be more than 75% A's and B's. Because then we have to ratchet up the scores. That's what the escalator clause is.
And the purpose of doing that is to do what?
You have to call
That's-
800 the state.
That's where the mystery is. We really don't understand that, right? If you can make an A on a test, you deserve an A.
Right.
But we earned a B, but this year, but they decided to move the grading scale, so it's really not a B. You know, so we don't, that's where we truly don't understand what the meaning behind it is on the state's level.
It's like moving the target.
It's a movement, that's exactly what it is. It's a moving target that we try to hit.
They did that on actual, sometimes you can go back and like challenge the grade. And they've had districts or school grades change, and they met the threshold that they advertised, and then they said, well, we already have that many years, so you're just going to keep your old grade, even though you met all the criteria to be issued an improved grade, you're going to have to keep the old
So there's no
one.
recognition at all of what you've done.
It's wild.
It's fun, but we are super excited to share with you the progress we have made and the good and bad.
Yeah. So we put the comprehensive data metric points of all 10 schools in one pager for you, right? What we want to do here is really highlight. For example, the first school that goes down from top to bottom is LMS. If you look at LMS, look at the gains that they made in learning gains. So LMS was 39% in learning gains in 2022. They went up to 53% in 2024.
It's that blue row, it's the blue, top first blue row.
It's there, right? So you can look at vertically, right? You look at their learning gains in the lowest quartile. They were in the 20s. LMS was in the 20s 2 years ago. Now they're in the 50s.
Can you expand on that? The lowest quartile, because that is something this board needs to really make sure they wrap around and understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. So every year at the end of the testing, when all the scores come out, right, you have to rank the scores in terms of percentile, right? And so the bottom 25% of the kids that took the assessment in spring of 2024, those kids, the state looks at, of those kids, how many of those made learning gains the following year. So you have to pay very special attention. And one of the things that we really try to improve upon this past year is being very intentional with looking at the data at an individual student level, especially in secondary, because that was not necessarily a routine practice that we've had in the past. And so, we have to break down, you have to calculate those learning gains overall, you have to look at those lowest quartile kids, and then be very intentional about targeting and knowing what each kid needs in order to make a year's worth of learning gains. Okay? And the learning gains go based on, if you're level 1, there are 3 different buckets that you can move into. So you could be a low level 1 and go to a mid-level 1 and still make a year's worth of learning. You can remain a level 1 and still, as long as you make growth within the level 1. Okay?
And I want to be more delineated about that. The lowest 25% are, just so you'll know, that's the students with disabilities. That's the students who are academically disadvantaged. They've come to us with ELL. They don't read, ever seen a book before, been in a school before. And so the work that our schools have done to surround that bottom 25 percentile of students and move them forward has been remarkable. That was very intentional. We asked the schools, we asked the departments to make very specific delineated plans, and basically even an ELL task force, if you will, that we created to make sure that we were working with those students, because it is very, very powerful to move. When you move the bottom quartile forward, you make leaps and bounds with the rest of your district. So we knew that that was something that we had to work on, and they absolutely answered the call.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Sanchez, when I look at this, I can understand that you didn't have learning gains in 23 because that's your baseline. But on bump up to where we're comparing a FAST exam, which there was outrage about, not outrage, but the FSA exam, there was an outrage about that because it's one snapshot of one kid's performance, one snapshot at a certain time. And so we got rid of that and adopted the FAST model, which is progress monitoring. So why in the data that doesn't involve learning gains are we comparing 2 different tests?
So, because all we're looking at that data is the trends, right? And so overall proficiency. So in the data that does not involve learning gains, we really are looking at 23 to 24, right? So when you look at, for example, the first category, ELA, you can see in ELA at LaBelle Middle School, we actually slipped 1 point in overall ELA proficiency from 42 to 41%, right? Other schools made tremendous gains. Look at Westside Elementary. They went from the 40s to high 50s there. So when it comes to the non-learning gain categories of your ELA proficiency, your math proficiency, your science proficiency, all that, you really are looking 23 to 24, all right? Because you have, that's a more apples to apples comparison, because those are the two exact same tests that you're measuring grades. That you're measuring growth, I'm saying, compared to growth.
We didn't have anything to compare the learning games to.
I mean, I understand that part,
But overall, you see a lot of different areas where you see tremendous growth. Look at the math at Clueston High School. Just look at the very last category at Clueston High School. You look at math proficiency over the last 2 years at CHS in 22, 23. We were in the 20s there. All right? We're still not where we want to be, but there's tremendous growth there. All right? There's progress there. Look at the math learning gains at Clueston High School from the 20s down to the 50s, up to the 50s. All right? So a lot of areas of growth here. And that's a testament to the work that our teachers are doing, that our administrators are doing, the students are doing. So in the elementary world, you see the same trend as well. I mean, lots of tremendous growth. And one thing we didn't put in this chart is the ELA proficiency of third grade, but we do have that coming up in the next slide, because I think you're going to be.
Are these hard numbers? How do they compare? How you compare them to our 5-year strategic plan and our goal numbers that they're where we want to be?
We're still not meeting the mark in terms of our 5-year strategic plan. But you know, our goal, like I said earlier, is really to continue to climb, to keep climbing, right? To keep making positive progress towards the goals that we have outlined in the strategic plan. And so the evidence is very clear there. When you look at, look at the learning gains at Westside, which is that pink category, lowest L25 Westside, 44 to 64. I mean, we've got some areas that we've got to work on there too. When you look at science at Clueston Middle School, we definitely have to work on that piece there. Okay, we've got some work to do in math at LaBelle High School as well. All right, but looking at this data allows us to celebrate the strong points and allows us to really focus the energy, the effort in terms of the areas that we got to improve. We got to improve U.S. history we got to improve social studies at Clueston High School. 100%.
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, but we're proud of the trajectory we're on.
Yeah, we're very proud of the tremendous growth. The overwhelming majority of data points that we have here are showing positive growth in the right direction. All right? If you go along with that.
Yes, so as you know, last year was our full year of implementing UFly K through 2. We had a couple schools that piloted the year before. And so we're so excited to start seeing our data in third grade with the positive trend. As you can see, proficiency in third grade reading from 23 to 24 has really went up in every category. The only one that stayed status quo was LES, and we have some action plans in place for that. So I feel like we're seeing the foundational skills in K1 and 2 produce better outcomes for our readers where they are reading come third grade, and we are seeing our students reading proficient in third grade. So we're really excited. This will be year 2 fully, all schools implementing UFly, continuing to partner with the university, continuing to add trainings for that. We're doing the fluency training later this week with the University of Florida to help us continue our track and progressing with that. And to add on to that, you know, while 23 to 24 was a 10% growth district-wide in third grade, which is huge. It's really hard to get a 10% gain in a year. Third through fifth grade, if you take that average, we had a 5% gain in third through fifth as an average, which again is no easy feat when you're looking at fifth graders who sometimes disengage from reading and because they're transitioning to middle school. And so we're super proud of not only this data, but the fact that our third through fifth grade band had an average of a 5% increase as well in literacy.
Tremendous progress there. When we look at total school points across the continuum, really, and when you look at this chart, you really have to look at the blue to the gray. All right, because if you look at the orange is going to give you an odd number because the school points are lower in 23 because they took out 4 categories. Okay, all the learning grades, right? So that's why those numbers are lower. It's not like we just dropped the performance, right? It just is you had less points to work with to begin with. So you really have to look at the blue to gray. Look at the blue to gray, LMS blue to gray, LES blue to gray, Westside blue to gray, Eastside blue to gray, Central blue to gray, LHS blue to gray, Country Oaks blue to gray, right? You see the growth there. You see the growth. You see the positive progress in the right direction, right? And when you look at total school points, I mean, some of our schools, you know, tremendous progress there again. You know, when you look at the blue to gray, and even when you compare, because you can compare more accurately percent of school points from 23 to 24, even though it's kind of wonky still to make the comparison. But even when you do a 23 to 24 comparison, even when you compare orange to gray, you still see, you know, positive growth. All right, so really proud of that positive growth.
So looking at our school grades for elementary from the last couple of years, from 22 to 24, again, not looking at 23 because of that removal of those certain lines, you can see all of our schools either increased or stayed the same with the exception of one. There was a lot of changes within that school last year, and there's a lot of changes moving forward. So again, we're very proud of the schools. You know, we have an A school that has accomplished. West Side that is a B was 1 point from an A, literally 1 point from an A. LES, even though they did have a D score, they were 1 point from the C. And so we're right on the cusp of greatness with all of those things as well. So we're really proud about the path that we're continuing to go on, that we're striving to increase our scores in every category and addressing all students where they are. Mr. Sanchez spoke to it earlier, but we are really looking at that progress monitoring data after PM1, after PM2, and really trying to target individual students and then rearrange what's being done. If something's not working at the school and the data is showing that it's not working for a said student or a said group of students, you know, what are we doing differently to support that school and make sure that we're targeting so that they can make the appropriate gains, not only as an individual student, but as a school group as well. So there's a lot of work around disaggregating data with us and really helping the schools facilitate great conversations to drive that instruction.
I want to clarify one thing as well. If you look at LaBelle Elementary School with the D grade, they actually increased in academic points over last year. Last year they were a C, they increased in academic points, and this year a D. And again, that's because of the grade band readjustment that the state did. It's just, again, annoying that we improve and then our grade goes down. And so we fell into that category. However, having said that, there's a new principal there. Last year was her first year, and they have made some changes throughout the year last year, and they're already making some phenomenal changes this year. I've got no hesitation, no doubt that this year they're going to excel, and that will not be an issue. We will go through the protocols from the state for it being a D school, and if they want to come, they can. We're happy to have them, but that school will not be at that status in 12 months from now.
Agreed.
And then when you look at the secondary schools, I'm so proud of the work that our teachers and leaders do in the middle and high school level. You see that we have yet to break the all B, because had the state not changed the minimum score for a B grade, Callista Middle School would have been a B school this past school year, but they raised it up to 57%, right? And then all our other three schools are really knocking on the door of what used to be the old B school grade. And so I put the percentage of points there from 22 to see that even though we're still C schools, there's been a lot of growth within that C range. You know, you've got Callista High School went up 9 points. You got LaBelle Middle School went up 10 points. You've got Callista Middle School's gone up 5 points. Even LaBelle High School's gone up 1 point. And so we're pushing closer to that B mark. And that is our goal. Our goal, our vision is to have high-performing middle and high schools that can at least be B schools every single year. And we're going to continue to make progress. We're going to continue to climb. We're going to keep climbing, because the top of one mountain quickly becomes the bottom of the next. That's got to be the mindset.
When I look at that slide and I look at, you said LaBelle High School only came up 1 point. Well, they started at the fast. They were, like blowing everybody out of the park in the 22 fast. So they, it's hard. As you know, it's harder to get those games when you're performing.
The higher your grade, the harder it is to sustain too. So.
Yeah, it's like when you're climbing a mountain, right? It's a lot easier to get from base camp at Mount Everest, right, to base camp 1. But when you go from base camp 4 to the summit, it's going to be a lot less oxygen and a lot more hard. Yeah. So the journey becomes harder.
Into all the points that were made there are certain things that principals know they can do to get an enormous amount of gains this year. And we really work hard to not do that. We want to make a broad, sustainable growth, so that as we make the slow, steady gains and we get to that point, it's more of a sustainable place to be, rather than leaving everything behind and focusing all on English or all on science and just pouring everything you've got into that. And so that's one of the things that all 11 now in the schools are doing. is making sure that we're doing slow, steady, but yet incremental growth and get us to a better spot.
Very intentional work.
All right, you see on this chart, these are the 12 categories that affect the district overall grade. And so when you look at third grade ELA was the first year that that metric was included in our district grade. When you look at the others, ELA proficiency, you can see the growth and the trajectory there. When you look at ELA learning needs, math proficiency, look at math proficiency as a district, right? You look at social studies, we've kind of plateaued there. We need to continue to focus on that to raise that up. We've got some work to do also with our middle school acceleration points. We've kind of plateaued there as well. Science grew a little bit, but that's something that we continue to work on. So, again, like I said, getting growth, right? Growth. We're seeing progress in all areas that we're being held accountable for. The hard work of our teachers, the hard work of our administrators is having a positive impact in terms of the data and the metrics.
All right, so this is our wow moment. When you look at the data over the last several years, our goal for this year, this was the first year, Mr. Sanchez and I were talking about this before the meeting. We really have always had a vision, but last year was the first year that we really not only had the vision, but aligned the vision, not only from the school level, but from the top all the way down. We made a district goal, and then we met with the principals, and we had them do a school goal, and how does the school goal go into the district goal, and all the way down to the student level. And so it was really cool to watch. And we set a goal of 54% for this year, and that was going to get us a B. And everybody had a role to play. We literally laid it out like a triangle, an inverted triangle. This is what we've got to do to get here. 23-24, our goal was a 54. We not only hit that goal, we exceeded that goal. 54 should have been a B district for Hendry County. And so we are beyond thrilled to just say that, 56, we met our goal, we exceeded our goal. Darn, the state changed the rules, but in our hearts, we really are B. We accomplished what we set out to do last year, and we couldn't be more proud. So our goal next year is going to be, what, at least 57?
At least go with the 57. 57. We got to get baseball hats with 57 on it.
Yeah.
Hines 57. T-shirts with 57, because everybody needs to think that 57 is the summit this year. 57 is the summit, and once we get there, then it'll be 58 is the summit.
Have you figured theoretically what our points would look like if we did not have the Digital Academy of Florida in OLA?
So
What would that look like?
This data that we're talking about for 23-24 does extrapolate
Right.
those kids.
Then we're taking out
They
things
can pull those kids out.
Now, you can't, I'm going to say this is my analogy about DAOF, and that is you can't take the money for the foster kids and not put them in the Christmas card picture. So what would our points look like with them included?
So, for example, the 48, what would it be without the DAUF?
Yeah, like I want to know, how close are we,
Yeah, I can
if
definitely-
we have, putting them in there? Because unless we are planning to get rid of them, to end that relationship, they do factor into our data.
Well, they do to some extent, but remember, we've been telling you that we've been working really hard with the state, and this is the result. And so now they are not factored into that piece of it for us. That's the work that
They
we've
have
been.
standalone data, right?
That's right,
When
exactly.
did that happen?
Over the last 6 months or so.
Okay, because
I've been telling you that we've been working on it hard, and we have been, and last year we thought we had it, and it didn't happen. This year we thought we had it, almost didn't happen. Roberto, we sent him on a bird hunting trip to Orlando, and he hounded down the commissioner of education, and so we pushed it over the line for us.
So the official information for this year, they have removed the DOE has removed DAOF.
It separated that for the school accountability piece, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done. Now, there are certain things, they still show up as a Henry County school, they still show up in certain categories, right, but not when the final calculations are done.
All right. We also wanted to highlight, and goes back to a previous presentation that we did about discipline, but when you look at the total number of discipline referrals in 22, we about half that in 24. So you can see the inverted relationship between as discipline referrals go down, academic performance goes up because the kids are spending more time in the classroom, our administrators are focusing more on coaching and developing teachers and playing with teachers versus
And
processing.
I would like to suggest the opposite of that as well. As teachers focus more on academics and the rigor and the best management practice that keeps students engaged, discipline goes down. So I don't think that, it could go either way, but I'm going to go on the side of our teachers are doing a phenomenal job at teaching and engaging students, and they don't, have the opportunities to get in trouble.
Yeah, there's less classroom management issues when the instruction is quality in the classroom, right? All right. We wanted to spend some time talking about, what are the contributing factors that have led to this growth, right? Because this is not magic, doesn't just happen, right? It takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of being intentional, strategic. So really, in our minds, it really starts with setting that vision, right? Going back to the strategic plan. I know 4 years ago when Mr. Swindle came on board, it's like we want to be a high-performing school district. We want to be academically focused on things. So, setting that clear vision for what does the summit look like for ours, or collectively as a school district. And then really drilling down into, if that's where we want to go, then these are the things that we've got to focus on, right? And we've heard a lot about academics, culture, systems. This year we expanded that to, the academic climb, which is culture, leadership, instruction, mindset, and belief. Those are the 5 pillars that good instruction revolves around and takes place, because instruction is the core of climb. It begins with culture, right? And it concludes with the belief in the kids and the belief in their potential, their capacity, and our ability to aspire them to believe even more in themselves. Then you have to look at the engagement piece, which is, that's been, I think, a big shift in our district the last 4 years. I think, I don't think we get enough credit for that. We have really engaged with the schools in a more deliberate way around instruction and really strengthening the instructional cultures that are at place at each school. And it starts with just having people at the district level like myself and Ms. Duncan that talk the data, that talk instruction, that meet with principals on a regular basis, that meet with coaches, that meet with assistant principals, deans, and the conversation is always about learning, about data, about improving the way that we deliver instruction in the classroom. It's about those wraparound engagement supports, right? Like the mentoring pieces that we do. I know last couple of years we've done a mentoring project at Clueston High School that really helped boost up the graduation rate among African American seniors there. Talk about the school visit instructional walks. We host those quarterly now. That is a practice now. That's an embedded way of how we do work. Every 9 weeks we're going to go visit the schools, we're going to look at the data, we're going to walk classrooms, right? And we're going to engage in discourse with our administrators and with our leaders there about what tweaks, what things that we need to change and modify to really deliver optimal instruction in the classroom for our kids. All right, so it's about that engagement piece.
And I would just add on that the schools collaborating with one another continues to grow and be a pertinent piece of improvement as well, because when you have 6 elementary schools, one person's doing something well, why make somebody else try to figure it out, share that information with them, coach the other schools. So building that collaborative relationship amongst the schools has been huge. I even emailed the high school today because we were looking for a certain policy, or what does the school do on this for one of the elementaries? And we're like, well, none of us do it, so let's ask a high school. Like, just that collaborative conversation is so huge, so we can really learn from each other's best practices. And just, I keep saying, one mind, we're smart, but all the minds together, we make a genius. And it's really true.
That's a concept that was formed 4 years ago. 4 years ago, there was 10 principals that kept their arms around their sandbox. And you don't even look over here, right? And now we got 10 principals that call each other and share and send APs to get information and training and stuff like that. And so we're really proud of the work they've done there with that engagement and collaboration.
Yeah, and that collaboration leads to development and improvement, right? And helping other people build up their capacity. 2 weeks ago, we had our administrators from Westside, do a standards-based training for the rest of the administrators. That we got all the administrators there, right? Well, over 50, 60, right, Dr. Staley? And everybody got the exact same training for all day long on standards-based planning, right? Because if we're going to really improve the quality of our teacher planning, right, it starts with the expertise and that planning IQ of our administrators. And so we've got to continue to leverage the talent and the capacity that we have internally and help share that, right? Through collaboration, help develop other people, right? Iron sharpen iron. Okay, standards-based.
Can you speak to, so my mountain to die on is direct instruction. and I as an adult, I learn better from being shown how to do it, as opposed to being said, this, this is what I want you to accomplish, and so if you want me to learn effectively and execute effectively, direct instruction. And so how are we helping teachers through modeling and providing that direct instruction model? Because we have so many young ones. We have a very young staff. And how, who is responsible for that direct instruction and modeling of young teachers?
And we're getting more teachers that are not teacher background trained.
Correct. So how is that model being implemented into the engagement
A
piece?
lot of that is twofold. A lot of that comes directly from our principals and our assistant principals going into classrooms and modeling. But a bigger piece of that is really particularly in elementary, is our instructional coaches, our literacy coaches that are continuously going in and modeling lessons for teachers. And that is something that the principals have put in place to where it doesn't matter what year of a teacher you are, first year, fifth year, you will have a coaching cycle, you will have a teacher come in and teach your class, you will have instructional walks where two teachers from the same grade level go and watch other teachers in the same classroom, and that's an evolving process, right? You have to get a lot of buy-in from people, that trust with the coach to be able to really establish that instructional model. But I feel like we're finally to the level where we've had coaches be consistent for a long enough period of time that they have built relationships with those schools. This is the second year we've actually had a coach at every school consistently. And so that is a huge piece of fidelity of implementation, and they have been continuing to grow their pedagogy, such as the literacy coach endorsement they did last year, where a huge piece of that is teaching teachers with direct instruction, being able to provide opportunities to go in and show them how it's done. So an example would be one of our coaches would go in and watch them teach a benchmark lesson, and then give feedback, and then go in and teach that same lesson a different day to the students. Or an example with our new teachers would be the coach would go in and model U-Fly instruction, and then allow the teacher to take over and teach that, and they'd be there over a set number of days, like a week at a time, to be able to provide them instructional feedback on how to improve their pedagogy. And like Mr. Swindle said, we have a lot of new teachers. We have a lot of teachers that are out of field, so the coaching of those teachers is becoming increasingly difficult and challenging, but they continue to rise to the occasion. Last week is a great example. Every single coach supported our new teacher induction team. We listened to the administrators and the feedback from our district, and we had not only one day of new teacher inductions, but 3 days last week, and we really hit the foundational skills. We did a whole study on the new Harry Wong series for our teachers. We really took it back to the foundational and did standards, just what are standards, and broke down the standards for them and instructed them on how to interpret the standards. And it was really interesting. One of the questions we asked in our session was, how many of you even know what the Florida Best Standards are? And there was probably, 5% who even raised their hand to know what it was. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with. How do you really build them up? And so it was a phenomenal training to really get them involved with that. We did U-Fly training last week, and then on top of the 3 days of training, the coaches also did a full day session on morphology and vocabulary, which was very hands-on at Huddle of Hendry. So I think that we are hearing the needs of our teachers. We are constantly probing the data with the coaches and the leadership to make them better as well. And I think that's a contributing factor to our ongoing success.
And those are not new needs, those are not new hurdles. We've been dealing with those for quite some time.
We're just getting much better.
And we still had phenomenal growth, and we were still 1 point from a B.
Yeah.
I thought you did an excellent job in explaining.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that length in going through the details.
Yeah.
That was a great job. Thank you.
What about the areas that, I know we have reading coaches, but the areas like we were saying, we have gaps in the social sciences and regular sciences, like.
Yes, ma'am. So in elementary, we do call them reading coaches, primarily because they're funded out of the reading plan, but they do support all academic areas, math, ELA, and science. They do plan with the teachers after school in all subject areas. But the trend has been, because they are paid out of the reading plan, that's how we facilitate that piece, and they're written into the reading plan. But they do coach all areas.
Okay.
ELA is certainly their focal point. For math and social studies, I would say oftentimes, not always, we do have master teachers. I can think of a couple like Eastside, who also step into some of that coaching role. And their job may be a reading resource or something during the day, but their specialty, for example, is math. And so they're really able to help facilitate some of those extra pieces for coaching as well.
Okay. And then you look at the last two there, you know, we've got to continue to focus on the data and allow the data to drive. We've done a lot more better work the last couple of years with Performance Matters. We're looking at that PM1, PM2 data and making those instructional shifts. And we're going to continue to double down on our ownership of the data at all levels. So not only do administrators know the data, but the teachers know the data, the students own their own data, right? And take pride in the progress that they're making individually from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, right? So they can track. At the beginning of next week, in this month of August, it's a perfect time for our teachers to sit there and say, all right, John, this was your score last year on the 4th grade ELA PM3. This is what your score needs to be, this school year, and here's how we're going to do it. Okay, let's track it throughout the year. All right, and then the last piece is always reflecting, right? Always having that reflective eye to look at what we've done. Is it having the right impact? And then always being courageous enough to make the changes that are needed to move forward and the climb. All right. And we really want to end with a few pictures from the last week, which is always one of the best days, if not probably the best day of the school year, when we have an opportunity to really celebrate the teachers that are doing an outstanding job. We had 20 teachers there at the bottom. You see 20 teachers that had 80% or more either proficiency on a state assessment, on an AP assessment, or CP assessment, or they had 80% or more of their students make a year's worth of learning gains, which we thought that was phenomenal. All right, and of course we have 2 schools that received a B school grade, and Eastside that got the historic A, and we were able to celebrate them last week. So, all right.
What's our count on instructional staff? Teachers.
All total?
Yeah.
650 or 670, approximately. Don't want to be in the fire, it's in that range.
And we had a lot of, we called this award the Ever Summit Award, right? Symbolizing that, you've reached the pinnacle of, like when you're climbing Mount Everest, the pinnacle, right? At 80%, you reached the pinnacle of teaching excellence, right? And so, but we had a lot of staff members, a lot, that were 76%, 78%, 77%. So we're thinking maybe next year we come up with a Base Camp 4 award. Base Camp 4 award. You're not quite at the summit, but you're really close. I mean, you can see the summit at that point. So we'll see how those points come along. But we would have had a lot more staff.
I think a little recognition is always welcome.
They love that.
They do love that.
Yeah.
And that's a clever idea.
Everybody needs a little attaboy boost.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from the board?
No, thank you for
Can I ask
your,
for a favor on the next, when we present this for next year, can we compare our performance to state average? Because I think that, are we going to be playing in the same league as Lafayette and St. John's? Absolutely not. There's completely different dynamics at work there, but I do think our kids and our teachers are good enough to perform against state average.
How about comparing, just for giggles right now, state 3rd grade ELA reading scores?
We're sitting right at the state average.
And where were we for the past 20 years?
Below, significantly below the state
So
average.
we've been roughly in the 30s for the last measurable years. This year, we went to the state average in reading. So what a remarkable job by our elementary schools, 3rd grade teams. I'm super, super, super proud of that. We had one school that overshot it by a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're really, really proud of the work that was done there. And I would like to wrap it up by saying, board and team sitting in the room, for my tenure here, we've talked about data-driven decisions and letting that drive the actions that we take. And I think that the remarkable gains that you see are as a result of that. And they talked about, the very delineated, specific alignment that we worked on for a long period of time and then put into play this school year to a very, very, detailed degree. And that was the alignment piece of it. But then there was a lot of components. There was a lot of, ingredients in the sauce that went in there. They talked about a lot of them. I don't want to underscore the Champions program. Wilson High School was very close to a B as well. And having those students, that really were the most vulnerable population, get to the point of graduation and get those credits they needed. That was a part of that. The ELL task force that Dr. Mundy and her team did, that showed unbelievable rewards out of those students that come to us with no English acquisition whatsoever. We have a ton of after-school programs. We have a lot of extracurricular and athletic programs, and those have to have buy-in. And a lot of kids come to school for that. But you know what? If you want to play football, you've got to be on track to graduate making good grades. And we even instituted some above and beyond that last year. And so this was a huge effort, wrapping around that lowest 25%. That's the most vulnerable population that needs the most support. And so we knew going into that was going to pay off big dividends. And at the end of the day, I do not want to underscore the work of the school leadership and the teacher grind that happens on a daily basis. If you haven't been in a classroom and taught, you really don't understand it, but it happens and it's real. And it was, our teachers really deserve the credit. They're the ones who did this. They're the ones who made this happen. We did provide some direction and support, but without them in the classroom, this goes nowhere. And I feel comfortable saying, if you look at the growth we've had, you look at the academics we've had, there are reasons why people need to take their students their children to another school, but you can't look at this and tell me that at Hendry County Schools doesn't provide high quality academics. We're safer than any school in this county and maybe even in the region. The extracurricular athletics that we provide are second to none. We do a great job with that, with everything that we do. The mental health that we provide and the support systems is absolutely phenomenal. So Hendry County Schools is a great choice for a child to go to school, no matter what matrix you want to use to do it. And I couldn't be prouder of the teachers, the schools, and the team around us that made it happen. And so we hope that you all share the same sentiment with us. Thank you. Good job, Mr. Sanchez, Ms. Duncan.
Very good, very good. All right. Thank you for the presentation. We will move on to citizen comment. Mr. Superintendent, do we have any citizen comments?
I have none at this time.
No citizen comment. We will move on to the consent agenda. Does any board member have any item they would like to pull from the consent agenda to move to an action item?
I do. Thanks for asking. Item G, assessment calendar, I'd like to pull that. And questions about graduation dates, item O.
Go ahead if you'd like, if you just a question.
So on the question of the graduation dates, was there any kind of like community parent polling on this? And the reason why I ask is, I think that if the schedule falls where it's like something that already aligns with your schedule, you could be in support of it. But I'm going to play devil's advocate on this, and typically we would have both schools graduating on or about May 16th. But then you look at holding off for an entire week for either one school or the other, like the school that has to lag behind a week. And is that something that the students and the staff at present have indicated that it's favorable to them?
The schools are involved in the decision and help us come up with the dates and how they would do it. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, the board. I would like to be able to be at both, and I suspect you guys would as well. And now one of the and so that was part of the reason why. The other reason why is the growing safety concerns. And so if you come to Clewiston High School's graduation, for example, if you noticed, it took an enormous amount of Clewiston High School staff to handle the crowd, handle the metal detectors, handle the entrance and stuff like that. And so what the schools are excited about doing is sharing that resource. Next year, you're going to see the LaBelle High School staff here handling that, while the Clewiston High School staff gets to do graduation. And then you'll see the Clewiston High School staff go to LaBelle High School, handle the crowd management, safety pieces of it, while LaBelle High School staff gets to manage and handle the graduation piece and be a part of the ceremony with their students. So it's a changing time. The schools were involved from day one with the planning and how this would go down. And we're very excited about the extra help and making the
I
change.
appreciate the insight. It was a little heartbreaking to see folks in LaBelle still, out to Cowboy Way when we're marching in to start the
Right.
ceremony.
Was there any fun to Saturday graduation? Friday night and
Yeah.
Saturday?
No, sir, they both wanted Fridays.
They both on
Yes, sir.
Friday.
Right.
was it the school who said they wanted Fridays, or was
Saturday.
your parent polling in that? Because one of the things I think about is if you have kids going to armed forces, and sometimes those deployments are just right after graduation dates or whatever, would that allow for them to participate in their graduation ceremonies if they are the school that's a week behind?
I don't know anything about the military deployment piece of it. I just don't. So, I mean, I
So
don't
what
know.
I'm saying, I'm gonna just boil it down, are we gonna get persecuted for the decision of supporting this by the school that has to wait for the week, with a week lag?
The schools, again, the schools themselves are in on the conversation and the decision, and they know that it's gonna rotate from year to year. That was, agreeable, and come up with the date. They're the ones that come up with the dates and how it would go. So,
But did they involve like?
and ultimately, I really don't care what day you do it on. There's never gonna be a perfect day, perfect time. There's people, some families can't make it if you do it a Friday or a Saturday. There may be other graduations that conflict with it on any date and time you pick. And so there's probably I would go as far as say, I guarantee you, there's no perfect time that we can put into a calendar date that's gonna be perfect time for everyone. So there may be conflicts with it, but I don't think you're gonna find a date that doesn't.
All right.
All right, very good. Do we have any other board members that would like to move any other items from the consent agenda to an action item? Seeing no other. All right, Mr. Superintendent, do we have a recommendation on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend your favorable consideration and approval of the consent agenda minus item G.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sammerdike, seconded by Mr. Houston. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. That was a lot of work in just a minute. All right, we'll move on to action items. Mr. Superintendent, we have action item 5A, new personnel allocation request. Do we have your recommendation?
Yes, sir, I recommend approval of action item 5A, new person allocation request as presented.
Motion by Reverend Brown, seconded by Ms. Nelson. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action item 5B, permission to advertise. Mr. Superintendent, recommendation.
Yes, sir, these are some more of the Neola policy advertisements that are still being adjusted due to state changes. And so therefore, I recommend your approval of action item 5B, permission to advertise proposed policy revisions, volume 24, number 2.
Second.
That was Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Sammerdike. Do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action item C. Mr. Superintendent, recommendation, sir.
Yes, sir. Recommendation is to approve action item 5C. This is the contracts as presented, a CRA contract management agreement. And within these two, this is the contract with our architect and our contract management team that we have vetted through. And within those two, you will see the negotiated and agreed upon percentages of the overall contract for each of those. With us tonight, we have Owens Aim Kimball present, and with him is Taylor Swartzky, a LaBelle High School grad, I might add. That's with Oak, and Miss Alicia Wachowski. All right, Miss Alicia Wachowski, and she's the director of operations that will be spearheading our school. Okay, and so they are with Oak here tonight to be present, and obviously you're going to see them as fixtures for the next couple of years as we go forward. So unless you have any questions, I recommend your approval of action item 5C, CRA Construction Management Agreement as presented.
Maybe they would like to speak a little bit about this program. I'd like to hear
That's up to you.
That's all right.
That's up to you. Taylor, Tony?
Save for your supper.
You came here and you should have some time here.
Do you prefer me to stand?
Yeah, probably up in front of the podium, probably.
Right up here at the podium.
Right in the spot.
Yeah, right in the spotlight, I'll do it. First and foremost, thank you to everybody, to the board, Mr. Swindle, the residents here in Hendry County, all the teachers that do such an amazing job. And we truly are humbled and honored to be a part of this legacy project. You know, we meant it when we said it in the presentation and we went through the board. We're just humbled to be here today. And really, it is the talk of the state, the new high school, and we couldn't be prouder to be part of that. And Alicia and our team, we're ready to hit the ground running. We're meeting August 22nd, Mr. Swindle, to get our kickoff meeting, get things moving, so we are ready to go. And we, at any point given time, we'll make sure all of you have my card. And I promised it last time, but I ended up leaving, but you will all have my card. And I'd love to talk and meet with all of you. Obviously, I'm working directly with Mr. Swindle, but anything that the board needs or wants, we're here for you.
Architectural plans, when you anticipate them being ready?
So those, we're meeting the 22nd with CRA, who we'll work in conjunction, the construction management firm will work in conjunction with them. We go through certain phases, 30, 60, 90s. And every step of the phase we'll present to the board, Mr. Swindle, or Mr. Swindle will decide to take to the board of the progress and the status and projected cost and so forth. But we can anticipate 30%. What do you think, Alicia?
Gosh, only a few months to get kind of an initial draft set up, placement on the site, get all the programmatics finalized, but yeah. it'll be-
Well, as board members, we get a lot of questions. Well, let's do that. Where is the music room? Where is, and so we could see some of that. And I'd like to be able to say like, well, I know what's going on here and being, so.
I feel bad standing
And
there.
we understand the importance of effective communication. We'll work with Mr. Swindle's office to ensure that every step of the phase that you guys are, have all the information at your fingertips. We have great new software that allows you to access that. You just log online, you can access those files and so forth. But you really have great leadership from Mr. Swindle and his team, and it really is amazing what you've accomplished here to get this grant.
And that's, you'll notice within your packet, you'll see the fees for construction fee and a pre-construction fee, and that's kind of the beauty of bringing the construction management team in so early, so we can provide you with all of those updates. We can make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, you're getting the absolute best price, and we can put together those graphics and make sure you have all of the information at your fingertips throughout every step of the way, so we can all make very informed decisions moving forward.
Great. Thank you very much.
And to help answer part of your question, as we have a rough draft of sort of some blueprints, if you will, and we're making some internal changes. LaBelle High School's looking at it, making some internal changes. And then as they do edits, then we will take it to the teachers and we'll take it, it'll be a community forums and stuff like that. We want to make sure that this truly is, an outreach that you get to see, communities get to see, parents get to see, and something everyone can be proud of.
Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
And along, Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure that everyone's clear. It's not only the percentages of, with regard to the contract, it's also the contract themselves are in there. I do want to mention that Ms. Tanner, our attorney, did look through both, made several edits to them, sent them back with the companies, and they've agreed. And so the one that you have in front of you is the final documents with edited that has been vetted by Ms. Tanner.
Very good. Thank you.
I only have one question. What was the total price?
Today, for the school that we're going to build today, the number, that's today's price.
Today's price, all right. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Sammerdyke, seconded by Ms. Nelson. Do we have any other discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we will move on to action item 5D, to the assessment calendar. Mr. Superintendent, do we have a recommendation on the assessment calendar?
Yes, sir. I recommend approval of action item 5D, assessment calendar 24-25 as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
Who was the motion? Motion by Mrs. Nelson, seconded by Mr. Sammerdyke. I know we have some discussion.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you look at this, I think one of the most exciting aspects of transitioning to the FAST examination is the fact that it's a progress monitoring model. And so when you're thinking about that 3 times a year, and I know that this is to alleviate that pressure on the teacher and the students for that one snapshot in time like you had with the FSA. But when you look at that, they're already doing 3 testings and it's a progress monitoring model. Then we're looking at DIBELS and iReady benchmark and 360. And one of the things that you hear overwhelmingly from educators is we want to teach more and test less. And so, some of these, like, is that necessary? If we believe and we're hanging our hat on the outcomes and we're being judged on the outcomes of the FAST exam, is all these additional county mandated assessments throughout the year? Because iReady is a progress monitoring model. Is that necessary? And is that taking away from instruction in classrooms? Go ahead.
If you could listen to the principals, Ms. Duncan, and everybody else, they would say Swindle's been saying that for a long time. And so the short answer is, yes, it is necessary, because if you are going to make data-driven decisions and know where students are, delineate specifically what help they need, you have to have a mechanism in order to do that. One progress monitoring system does not provide all of that for us. Now, having said that, I specifically have fought this and made some progress. For example, a good example is iReady has taken the diagnostics out of theirs. They've embedded it in the work of that the students do, and through the adaptation of AI, they're able to then delineate what the students need, where their deficiencies are. So there are some progress is being made, but I agree, where we get the best bang for our buck is when a teacher's teaching in a classroom, not by taking all these darn assessments. Unfortunately, what I will say, and it's true, you don't have to agree if you don't want to, but our students, unfortunately, are conditioned to it, because we've been doing it for so long now. They know that it's time to take the dibbles. Okay, no problem, and they condition, they get it out, and they do it. And so I don't particularly like that. I agree that we need to teach more, but unfortunately, it's where we are. We're in a high-stakes testing game. If we're going to be successful in it, we've got to be able to assess our babies and make real-time changes in either the instruction they're getting, the groups they're in, the resources we're giving them, the humans we're assigning to them. And it's not the best-case scenario. Couldn't agree more. But as long as it's a high-stakes testing game and we want to be successful, it's the game we have to play.
Have we, over the past 4 years, because I know we are agreeing on this one, what testing have we cut any testing back?
Yeah, and there are some specific things that I would divert Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Duncan, and they know specifically every one of those. And I don't know if you've got specifics that you can talk about that we've cut out outside of already, because it's no longer a testing platform.
If you would like me to address that question, I'm glad to.
Sure.
I will say this 360 item that you see on there, that is a mandate for the mental health component. The purpose of putting everything in this calendar is really to support our district seeing the full picture, keeping everybody on track with the pacing guide. We did not need to put the iReady, like Mr. Swindle said, into this as an assessment this year, because it really is not a diagnostic assessment. It's going to be embedded in the 15 minutes they do per day, but it's the first time that we're doing it that way, so we just felt like we needed to wrap our heads around it as a district team and make sure that everybody was doing the same time frame. So students will log on 15 minutes a day. It will not be a diagnostic testing. They'll just log on to iReady. They'll do their regular lesson. The AI will, just like you said, analyze where they are and create their path. Without that piece, iReady would not allow them to create a path zone to what their specific learning needs are. And that's how we fill in some of those learning gaps for like the lowest 25% of the kids that are not on grade level. It creates a path for at least 15 minutes a day. They can work specifically on skills that they're behind on. So that piece will and can be removed from the calendar in the future. We just didn't really feel quite comfortable taking it off this year until we had our first year experience with that. And as far as the science benchmark, it's not required we do that, but progress monitoring does not assess science. And so it is high stakes for us to take that at the end of the year. So going in blind, not having any science benchmarks, if you will, throughout the year, we feel like would be detrimental to our progress. We need that data to be able to compare throughout the year. And the last thing I'll speak to that is K through 2 FAST does not assess foundational literacy skills. It's basically, if you're familiar with the STAR reading assessment from back in the day, like they take an AR test, it's basically what it is through K through 2. And The data we get through that, even though it's the state test, does not provide academic instructional targets or data that we need. And so DIBELS, it's kind of like the old school, you would sit down with your K-1 students and give them, identify the A, the B, it's kind of that, it's one-on-one direct instruction with the kid, targeting those specific skills so that we can figure out what pieces of youth fly to further target. It is really how we're driving that data-driven instruction for our students. So again, it's not one of those assessments that we're requiring everybody to do. We feel incredibly valuable information comes out of providing that tool with our students in order to provide that specific academic instruction.
How do our outcomes and information we glean from these county assessed tests align with the state standardized tests? Are we in the same ballpark?
Absolutely, and last year was the first year with iReady that they were able to, with the fast changing, of course, to make that alignment, and they are aligning exactly. The biggest perk and difference, if you will, between, so the fast is giving you the end of the year test at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year, right? And so again, it's not really a very good tool for figuring out how to drive a lot of instruction. But iReady does allow us to do that. So again, like Mr. Swindle said, they're really targeting and evaluating two different things. One's diagnostic and one's summative. And so there are different tools to address different learning needs of our individual students. And with any missing link of that piece, I don't know that we would be seeing the academic results that we are. We all agree that it's a lot of testing, and we have had conversations and conversations and conversations with our administrator, our teachers about pulling back. And the undying, answer is that we need that information to be able to make those decisions, and that it is what's best for our kids in the long run of instruction. So I'm excited to see how iReady does this year with the embedded piece. And middle school's picking some of that up too. So we really just try to make the assessment calendar very transparent for everything that we're doing in one page, one document for clarity for our stakeholders.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn.
How much time did these kids spend on county assessed tests?
I don't know. How much? 3%. Yeah, because there is a percentage that we have to stay within, correct?
That includes the state.
That's it? All right.
Until board member comments.
So we've already got a motion and a second, so all in favor of accepting the assessment calendars? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No, that wasn't an affirmative opposed, I was an aye with him.
All right, we'll do that one more time.
confused, yeah.
All in favor of the assessment calendar?
Aye.
Opposed with the assessment calendar? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, Mr. Superintendent, is Ms. Madison on with us today, it looks like?
I think she's on the,
Yes.
yes.
Yep, I am on, and I do not have any updates at this time.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Superintendent, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple things. I just want to say that, springboarding off of where we were this past year with our academic gains and the wonderful academics that happened at our schools, and we are super excited to get this school year started. We are in better shape than what we've been in the past several years with regard to recruiting teachers and where we are today. We got a good number of our schools that needs nothing, where they are full with what their needs are. The remaining ones are only one or maybe two, with interviews lined up and with the opportunity to shift people around if need be at the last minute. And so we weren't there for the last 3 years, so we're really excited about that. And so we're just super excited about the upcoming school year. One thing that I do want to highlight is this. Everybody works hard, right? Everybody works hard in their life, their jobs, their careers. You guys work hard in what you do respectively. I get that and totally understand that. I want to highlight a couple departments that have gone above and beyond to really help get this school year off the ground. What a lot of people don't realize is that during the school year, the schools bear the brunt of the work. The teachers, the staff at the schools, those principals, and they are really in that daily grind, what it takes to make the education, magical things happen in those classrooms. During the summertime, when they're still working hard, it's not that they're not, but it kind of shifts over to some of the district staff. Maintenance, for example, distribution and his staff, they have really been getting after it with all the repair work that's been going, moving portables, getting the Clueston Early Learning Center up and running, getting the new LaBelle Adult School up and running, and making the changes that have to happen there. They've been working weekends through rainstorms and everything else that's been happening, and I just couldn't be prouder of them. HR department's the same way. Francis Canales sitting in this room with us worked 13 hours this past Saturday in conjunction with some of the payroll staff, because we've got an influx of people and we need to make sure they're on payroll and they're getting paid. And they couldn't do it in the normal 600 hours a week that they work. So they had to work Saturday to make that happen as well. And so, and that's just indicative of what they do all of the time. So payroll, HR, we've got a good chunk of people in IT sitting in the room, and they've been working, making sure that sound systems are working, the microphones are working, the cameras are working, the Promethean boards are working, so that the first day of school, these teachers can step in and make it happen. Mr. Adams, in his role as the CFO, has just obviously in the busy throes of getting the budget to where it is and getting the AFR up and running and off the ground. And the work that goes into it. I know a lot of times these things are happening and no one really sees it, and you guys don't even know sometimes. And I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted and spotlight that, make sure that these valuable people know that we see it, we appreciate it, we love them for it. They work themselves silly, some of them work themselves sick over it, and that's really what makes a difference in the culture of Hendry County schools. The people that we have that work for us, that love it, that's really what made the difference in the academics this year. The culture and the relationships that our teachers and students have built and the hard work that they've done. So I couldn't be prouder of the staff that we have on all levels. And I wanted to make sure that I said that in public and especially to the board. So thank you.
Very good. I say thank you very much for all of that. And I know there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't envy any of you. I wouldn't want to be any of you, because I don't know how you do it. So I will say though that the Huddle Up Hendry was another awesome success, I do believe. You know, and I think it's starting to really grow on people. We're getting media attention from it, which is a great thing instead of negative. You know, Fox, we got one news outlet that's actually giving positive stuff out there, so that's a phenomenal thing, you know, for the district. So thank you and the staff for coming up with that and continuing to just improve on that.
Yes.
I think that is awesome.
Yeah, the team does a great job.
You know, so well, that's why I gave you a little credit.
Well, those things, that wasn't me.
But yeah, you had a little role in it. But that's I think that's just an awesome thing to see. And you know, and then our community support yet from businesses, local businesses. I want to put it out there that, you know, we had a local, and nothing against you folks, but we actually had another local contractor that stepped up during the Huddle Up and paid for the lunch for all of the training for that day. You know, so I want to recognize them. Thank you for that.
Yeah. You can take it.
You know, I mean, that was Clyde Johnson Company. So thank you for that. That's just another awesome thing to see them still want to participate. They believe in what we're doing here in Hendry County with our students and our staff. So thank you for that.
And out of all fairness, I want to make sure that everyone knows we had a leadership day 2 weeks ago.
2 days.
A 2-day leadership event, and where we brought all the leaders in. We didn't want to take a break for lunch because it was that packed with information and stuff, and we needed a meal for that as well. I mean, one called to Taylor, and I said, we need this. Without hesitation, he said, I'll bring you a check tomorrow. And so Oak also stepped up and has already embedded, you know, their support of our school district and our success. And so we're very appreciative of what they did as well. So yeah, we had some great support from our partners.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up. If I didn't,
Yep.
thank you folks. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Very much. Didn't want to put you down. So, I mean, that's just a testament to the growth of our county and what everybody believes that these students and staff have left in them to do. You know, we're headed up that mountain, so thank you guys.
Keep climbing.
So, I do have one question that I know Curtis Clay is not here in the room with us tonight. From what I understand of it, and you could probably enlighten me a little bit, security purposes with I guess the state has handed down some new security stuff, the sporting events and things of that nature with gates. How is that going to affect us for the upcoming school year?
So you mean sporting events?
Yeah, because from what I understand, we can't have, if we have a gate open, we have to have it manned.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so yes, we, from this point forward, will never get less policy, rules, and direction on where we are with regard to safety of our campuses and security. And on campuses this year, it's even more strict than it's ever been, but that's okay, you know what I mean? We want to make sure we protect our students and staff, and so we will comply, and we will do what we have to do to make sure that all those caveats are taken care of. Sporting events probably won't see a lot of difference, because if it's an exterior gate where they have to come in like through the parking lot to get into the stadium, for example, it's manned, and we have security there. So sporting events probably won't see any differences, because we already kind of had those locked where they couldn't go anywhere else without the school. You had to go through a gate that was manned, and we already had, for the most part, either a deputy or a guardian or a school admin or someone is at those games as well.
So they don't have to physically stand like when a basketball game or a volleyball game is going on at our high school.
Yeah.
Do we have to have a man by the road?
No.
At that game?
No, not the main entrance coming in like that. We won't have to do that. But we will have to have someone, again, either, or in the building or somewhere there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So
And then the rest of the campus secure where they can't go anywhere else on that campus, which is pretty much the practice anyway.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we pretty well
Yeah,
kept everything.
that's
on
right.
Anyway, so I just want to clarify that.
Right.
Because what I was understanding of it is that we had to have a guy at the road.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a little ridiculous.
It's a lot ridiculous.
Yeah, but,
Yep.
okay, all right, well, that clarifies that. So,
Right, sure.
Thank you, appreciate that. That is all for me, Mr. Chairman, tonight.
Well,
Keith, briefly.
geez, after you, Thursday is open house, and I've been to some of the schools, and everybody's getting ready. The teachers are getting ready, the classrooms, some of the classrooms, they're so spectacular. They're just, our teachers are pumped up, they're ready to go, they're ready to meet everybody, meet their students for the first time. So it's just very exciting around the schools in the next couple of days. And Monday it all starts, it sounds like. So I've been over here to our new pre-K center and stuff like that. It's moving along as smoothly as possible. I've been in a lot of those rooms, and boy, people are working hard. They're just embracing it. I think it's so super, and it's pretty neat. I'm overwhelmed by the little bathrooms. Yeah, I swear, I've never seen that before. They're so cute. I mean, but those teachers are ready too. They're very excited. And so I went to the new teacher luncheon here at the church, and they do it every year. It's so wonderful. So I go around and I try to meet all the new teachers. It was 40 years ago, I think this week, when I started here in Hendry County. So I know how anxious those people are. I try to encourage them. I think their teachers, their principals are very supportive to them, their peer teachers and so forth. They just maybe need to relax a little bit. I mean, we have a lot of teachers who grew up in our community, whether they came from Moorhaven or whether they came from LaBelle High School, they came from Clewiston High School. We have a lot of teachers that are homespun, so they know what's going on. So that's very exciting. And I just thought I would just share that. But it's always a little overwhelming when those people come in. So many looking for a place to live, looking for food, and meeting new friends and stuff. There's just a lot going on for them. And we need to support our new people. That's all. That's it.
All right, Ms. Nelson.
Well, I've already said thank you to Mr. Busen. The center is fantastic, but if you would pass that thanks on to your staff, because I know it takes a village. It's going to be a phenomenal facility. I'm super excited. Huddle Up Hendry. Sorry you missed it, Ms. Busen. It was fantastic. I left so pumped and excited, and actually I think I had a mindset shift myself, so thank you.
That you wanted to go back and teach?
No.
Oh.
I thought I was ready to go last year. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. But I will volunteer and I told all the new teachers when I went to the new teacher induction, or the new teacher meeting, saying that if anybody's listening, call me. If you're doing something exciting, you need an extra set of hands, if I'm in town and I can do it, and spread the word to your people. I'd love to go in there and be an extra set of hands and volunteer. I don't want to teach, but I will go. I'll do cafeteria duty. I will work with small groups, I'll read whatever is on. So I'm super excited. And then he talks about vacancies. That was my question. That's all I have. Let's run.
Oh, yes, you know I got something to say. I am, excuse me, excited about this year. I was at the huddle up, and I appreciate the way that everybody was excited about what we're doing and getting on fire about teaching our kids. What we're going to talk about tonight was the school grade and how it was put where you could show gains. And I remember being in the classroom and working hard, and the kids make just a little gain. Everyone would be excited about what great gain they had made. And I was proud of a little gain. And the principal came to me and said that, Mr. Brown, I know you didn't get what everyone else got, but we appreciate what you've done. And that touched my heart then. To see these people working so hard, it's good to know that we didn't get the A, all the A's one, because we can't all move a target sometimes. But my last question is, when will we know if they're going to move the target again or not?
They will.
They will. Do we know the date? We can know probably not at all.
Well, they'll, next year, again, next year when they get all the scores in, if they have to readjust it, they will.
Wow.
So we know that it will happen. We're accepting of the fact we don't like it, but we're accepting of that, and we're just going to continue to climb. We're going to continue to make gains, and we will make it there.
Okay.
Our goal is to be there this coming year. My personal goal, I think that our team's personal goal, is that we get there with enough gains this year to get us to the B.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about one percentage more. When we gained several percent this past year, we went from 48 to that 53, 54 range, and so we know we're right there. And if we do that again next year, we're into that B.
Awesome.
And so
What was the number of points they moved it?
it was only one from the B. They moved the B up.
They
Yeah.
moved the B from a 54 to 57.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had a 56.
And we went to 56. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, the floor is yours.
I'm very excited, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me make my lack of comments from last meeting for this one, so be a full 10 minutes.
That's a late April Fool's joke.
No, it isn't. No, I'm just kidding. I can wrap this up in 10 minutes or less. So, as board members, we are governed by a state statute that says if we are going to do any kind of out-of-county travel, and our out-of-county travel is always for professional development, that would exceed like a total of $500 it would cost the district, that we have to put it on the agenda and vote. And so that's what we all do that, and anytime we're traveling. And so I know that my opinions on a recent professional development opportunity that many of our teachers attended, my views about it aren't shared by everybody, and that's okay. But what struck me on that was I had some folks in the community just reach out and be like, hey, what is this? And sometimes optics weren't really great on what was being put out about attending this particular conference. And so I went back and I said, well, sometimes I get spicy about things. I want to go back and I want to look at it and make sure, do I still feel the same way about this? Because my opinions do change with time and experience sometimes. And so I went back and I looked at this conference that they went to. And so immediately went to see where it was like standards aligned, because I'm looking for like, what's the return on investment for our students in our district? And what I saw there, I wasn't impressed with, because everybody here in the room knows that in Florida, we do the Florida Best Standards. And this entire conference was aligned to Common Core. We don't do that. And this conference was heavy on the social emotional learning, and we do resiliency in Florida. And furthermore, looking at some of the ideology that the owners and the proprietors of this conference push forward are very disparaging towards what our Florida legislature and governor has outlined how we want our Florida schools to run. And so I would like to make a motion for all out-of-county professional development have to come before the board in the same manner that we have to do for ourselves, because I feel like what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so we can have an opportunity to look at that particular professional development and make a judgment call on whether we think that's appropriate or not as a board member. Because people were going, I can't believe you approved this, and I said, well, it didn't come before the board. And so I think that just something that I want to make a motion to have our attorney wordsmith a policy that pulls this out-of-county travel and alignment to give us the information on the same thing that we do for ourselves, so we can make informed decisions on whether we want to support the professional development that they're seeking.
We have a motion on that, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on that, do we have any other discussion?
Well, I think we need more discussion on it.
So,
I mean, I'm not against it, but I think that, sure, to make a decision on it, I mean, what are we really asking for would be the question. But do we want a board presentation? Exactly what is it that we're seeking? But I wanted to open it up for discussion. That's why I seconded it. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote. But I think if we're doing something that changes the way we've done this policy, I think we need to discuss it at some length and possibly present some options before we just vote on it up or down.
Well, I'd be glad to share my vision, and that is like exactly what we do when we're going to FSBA conference. This is the day we're traveling, and this is the anticipated cost of it, and that's it. It's just an agenda item, and it's on a board member to be able to go and say, well, let me look at this up, and you can do your own research on it. If you don't care about it, then you can vote in favor of it. But just to have it on that, not require a presentation, but just give us the opportunity to look at it and do the research on it and decide on it from that point forward.
Mr. Superintendent, does staff look at those kind of things before travel is approved?
Yes, and going all the way back to, spending time in the classroom and teaching and making sure that what we're doing is value added. And we're always at the point now to even myself, I pass up on conferences because I want to make sure that the return on the investment is good. Why am I going to spend my time out of Hendry County where I could be here doing whatever I need to do, as opposed to learning something that's not relevant to what I need? And that's the same tone that I've shared with the departments and the schools. And so we ask them to do that up front. If you need to go to this, you need to make sure that it's going to be some type of practice, some sort of management, some sort of system that's going to benefit you back here again. And so we've asked them to do that already going up front and into this. So I'm not sure specifically, if that's the direction y'all want to go. Is there things that y'all, if you want something from me, you said you want more information. If there's something you want on our end, just please make sure that that's clearly delineated to me so that I can make sure that I produce that.
Just the name of the conference and how many people were anticipating to go. Because when I started looking at it, I looked at how much the registration fee was per person. I started doing the math and sweating. And then I started looking at staying at Gaylord Palms. And I started sweating when I started doing the math on that. And then I went and was looking at the Common Core alignment and the social emotional learning. And I mean, I didn't want to have to say this in the meeting, but I went to look at their Facebook page, because that's where you're promoting the best parts of your conference and everything. And they had on one of their reels, like it was the first thing I saw, I looked at it was like 10 different pictures. And one of the pictures has a presenter standing on stage asking the crowd, how many of you teachers are a couple of drinks in already? I'm not supporting that. And so I think to be able to have that information up front, if you want to look at it, fine. But for me, like when people are going, Busen, like what's this? Like, are you supporting this? I'm like, we didn't sign off on this
Well,
conference.
it's hard for us to control some of those things, like what a presenter says on the stage, whether they're being goofy, funny, or trying to, get a laugh out of the crowd. I don't know. So
Well, I mean.
it's hard for us to control that piece
But if
of
you
it.
have, as a board member and you're voting, I mean, you have that opportunity to do your own research. I'm not saying I'm asking the staff to do the research
Yeah.
for me, but to tell me what conferences we're sending our people to.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to have just that baseline of information where you can make an informed decision.
And,
It's just
and,
where I'm
and I
at.
know money is money. I'm not using this as a reason you shouldn't do this, but those, I don't know specifically, I'm sorry, I'm in the dark, I don't know specifically which one you're talking about, but those are typically 100% all paid for out of certain grants for school improvement, and I think I know which one you're talking about, and, there's a lot more to it than just
One I was
simply.
fired up about last year.
Yeah, same one, right? And so I know you and I have a common friend and one 30-year teacher that come back and she goes, I wish I'd have done that years ago. The things I got out of that, what I'm going to bring, I want to hold some workshops here with this group and we're going to use that and embed it because it is the practices we need to be doing to help drive, And so can you find something about any conference that you wouldn't like or, probably, but it's the direction of the board, whatever y'all want to do.
How is it handled now? How does it work now?
And so what happens is, for example, either a school could choose to go, if a school wanted to go to some, and they can, and there's grant monies available, then they go there and they say, here's the school, here's the workshop we want to go to, here's why, here's what we're going to get out of it. And then between Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Duncan, they would align, is it aligned to what we're doing or what we need? And then they align the funding with that. And when the funding is there through the grants, then they can either fund it or say, no, we can't fund it, or you can't take that many people. And then they would approve it or disapprove it that way. You get a lot, we get a lot, staying here in Hendry County, and doing the same things the way we've always done it gets us nowhere. We need to be able to go and learn and garner and grow our practices and our teaching pedagogy and everything else. And so they're very valuable. Are there things about them we don't like about individual ones? I've sat in superintendent conference and seen things I didn't like, right? And so we have to be able to filter through that and make sure that we use what specifically helps us.
But if it's aligned to standards that we no longer use, and it's when we say it's being paid for by federal, or by grants, what we're talking about is federal money. I mean.
Money's money, right? We still should be right and do
Well,
what's
I
right
mean,
for that. Yeah.
When I think about federal money and how federal money's spent, I get fired up because I think about the inflation that the everyday average citizen is dealing with, particularly in our socioeconomically challenged community, and how the person's purchasing power has diminished greatly, whether it's me going to the grocery store to pay for groceries with cash or a person who has EBT. They're getting less money for their stipend. And so when I don't just think, oh, it's a grant, it's federal money. Like, no, that's all taxpayer money. Like,
Money's money.
Money's money.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm not asking for anything that would create a different, like an additional workload. But one of the things I'm seeing, our policy is if it's above 25, it's valued, the purchase is above $25,000, it comes to the board for a vote. Well, what we spent in total to that vendor at that conference was far in excess of $25,000. It may have been right under the level for each individual school, but I want to see how much in total that we're spending and sending to go to that conference, because this all has an impact on our kids. And, it was the ideology that I know that we don't support in Florida, curriculum standards we don't support in Florida, and then to see how much money that we spent on that was.
Is that what the whole conference was, or was that just
If we can break so what we're there for is what the alignment is to improve instructional quality, and if it's not aligned to the standards we use in Florida, that's wild to me.
Well, but okay, so I look at it like this. If you go to a concert and there's 30 songs that they sing and you only like 4 of them, you're looking at, but you love them 4. That's your favorite 4 songs in the world. You're still going to go with it, right? And listen.
But I pay for my own
So,
concert tickets out
but
of the
you're
money that I've already
still
paid,
getting
taking the
what you
taxes.
went for.
But I paid for my own concert tickets, y'all,
But you
the school
got
board
what
doesn't pay for
you
that.
went for. What I'm saying, right? You went after for that one item.
What is more important than curriculum aligned?
Give me, I don't know what the whole thing was.
Give an example.
I'm just asking a question.
Curriculum, something that they went to see it do that the governor didn't want. Understand? What-
So the Florida legislature and the governor, remember, it was a big goodbye Common Core, we're not doing that anymore. Common Core math, all that crazy stuff. And then so they implemented the Florida standards, which is different. Some of it, they've kept some of the Common Core, but a lot of it's different. And the standards align with it. Our teachers are supposed to be teaching in classrooms. So just, it's this, the standards, the teaching standards that doesn't align to. And it's on their website. I mean, I went through and clicked through like 68 pages of looking at each subject and each grade level, elementary, secondary, and the standards on it. And I'm not saying, listen, y'all can vote me down every day, all day on it, but just give me an opportunity as a board member to have a policy in place that says, we're gonna put this information in front of you so you can say yay or nay on it. Because we're doing that for ourselves for $500, but we don't wanna do this for $100,000.
Well, but nobody's asking, it's a different accountability system too, though. So we're putting it out there in front of, where when they come, they're putting it out in front of these folks that we trust to do the right thing with that.
Sometimes everybody doesn't have their eye on the ball the same way.
Well,
So,
And I think that we can all, as if we're talking about teamwork and we're all working together and we're collaborative, like iron sharpens iron, as Mr. Sanchez says. And so what one, facet or mindset sees value in, you should be able to challenge that.
And I do want to point out too that even if you did see a piece on core, or something else, in Hendry, we don't, we subscribe, to the curriculum that we use in the state standards. And so even if they've seen that or exposed that there, they're not going to bring that here.
But that's the
and change that
entire,
piece of it.
It was based entirely on Common Core.
But it was teaching pedagogy, I believe, not necessarily using the
So
Common Core
now
and
we're,
bringing it here.
so now we've deviated from what my request in motion is just to have a checks and balances in place. And now we're debating whether it's worthy or
Yeah.
not. So this is not just for this particular conference.
Any.
This is for
I get
any
it.
conference.
And I get it, and look, the only thing I would say to the board is if y'all want to do that, then it is a fairly simple request for us to do, but if you're going to vote, I would not approve, nor would, I believe, I got faith in the team and the leadership piece, that we wouldn't bring anything to you that we didn't think had components that would improve this district in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So if you're going to vote them down, I ask you to please do the research and look at them very closely, because again, we're not going to bring it if we don't think that there's beneficial value to our students for us to go anywhere. If that's what y'all want,
Well,
I don't have a problem bringing
I
it.
would like some time to do some homework on this. I'd like to make a motion, we table this. And I'd like to talk to Ms. Duncan, I'd like to talk to Mr. Sanchez, and sort of get more of a feel to make a decision tonight. So
What
my
makes
motion
us
is-
qualified? What makes us qualified to make that decision?
Yeah,
Because we're fiduciary agents of the district. We absolutely are, this is monetary.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I understand what you're
That's a
saying,
subsidiary
but
question he can't make.
I can't make that motion to table it. If there was a second, and we could vote on it.
Okay, I will bring examples, solid examples. Let's table this, and I'll bring some solid examples on poster boards of why this is problematic. And then we'll go right after this
There's a motion
particular
and a
conference.
second. Call the question.
you motion,
I'll second.
and you seconded, so we have a motion to table it by Mr. Sammerdike and seconded by Ms. Nelson. So all in favor of tabling this until our next meeting,
Till the future meeting.
or a future meeting, we need to set a
That's
date.
next meeting. Let's do it next meeting. Let's get it out of the way.
Do we need to set a date on this?
If you want a certain date, you can. If there's a certain day y'all want to see it back, if y'all want certain information, that's fine. And for certain things you want us to produce, I just need clear direction on what you want from us on that, either the date or the information you request.
Do we want to go to the next meeting, or you want longer?
Longer.
You want to do the first meeting?
Meeting in
First
September.
meeting in September?
Okay, we'll put it on the agenda for the first
meeting
meeting.
in September. All right, all in favor of tabling until the first meeting in September, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so it's tabled until the first meeting in September to be back.
And I have one more thing. I hope I'm under 10 minutes. I just want to thank our community partners. I think we've all seen a lot of people banding together to do things like the backpack drives in all of the communities within the municipalities and the smaller communities. Heartland Homes for the shoe drive. And the luncheons that vendors and community stakeholders have provided, it's overwhelming and very heartwarming to see people supporting education in Hendry County.
Agreed.
And with that, my comments conclude, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Meeting's adjourned.